Ready? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call our meeting to order. Today is April 12th, 2022. This is a business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee, and we're going to have an executive session to start, so I'd ask for a motion to recess to executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, which is discussions of job performance, character, or physical mental health of a person, provided the persons have been notified in advance and advised they may require the discussion be held in an open meeting, and they have been, and the minutes shall reflect that. Sessions pertaining to potential litigation and legal advice pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A2. Discussion of any investigative proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct, civil or criminal, pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A4. And sessions pertaining to collective bargaining pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, which is NKSD and NEANK. If I could have a motion? A motion from Ms. Lima, second from Mr. Mather. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. We are in executive session. We will conclude at approximately 7 p.m. We'll try to be as on time as we can and apologize if we run a little late. Thank you. Everybody else set down there? Yeah, okay. You guys all set? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call our meeting to order. Today is April 12th, 2022. This is a business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee. I'd ask if you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could ask you to remain standing for one more moment, sorry. We did this at a special meeting that we had a little while ago, but we haven't done it in this auditorium. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Mr. Bill Mudge, who passed away recently. For those of you who don't know him, he's a longtime resident of North Kingstown, went to our high school, and served as a school committee member for a very long time. Was very involved in North Kingstown schools and our school committee itself as well. So I'd just like to take a moment of silence for Mr. Mudge, please. Thank you. Next, if you could please call the roll.
Okay, in the absence of our beloved Joan Beisel tonight,
Thank you, Mrs. King.
I will call the roll call. Lisa Hildebrand. Gregory Blasbog.
Here.
Jennifer Hoskins. Here. Jake Mather. Here. Jennifer Lima. Here. Sally Schott. Here. And any student representatives? No, I don't see any.
Okay.
Thank you.
We do have 4 members present, which is a quorum. Thank you. If you could please call the calendar.
The calendar is April 13th, which is tomorrow night. There is a joint FY23 budget meeting with the Town Council. The school portion will be heard at 7 p.m. with the whole meeting beginning at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, April 20th, there is a special school committee meeting. Tuesday, April 26th is a regular business school committee meeting. Actually, we probably should also say that Friday, April 15th, is no school. It's Good Friday. Administrative offices will be open, and then all next week is school break as well.
Thank you very much. Next, we have, under presentations and recognitions, we were contacted by a student at the high school who is working on his senior project and asked for the opportunity to present that to the school committee. So I am pleased to give the floor over to you. If you could take the microphone over there, you can pull it down, adjust, and give it a tap just to make sure it's turned on. And so you do have a slideshow, correct? Yep. So we're going to move down there so that we can see.
He has a wireless. He's going to use it from over here.
Oh, all right. Sorry. If you could go see Chaz over there. Sorry, I didn't know they're doing that. Sorry to make you run around. And we'll take a look at what you have.
Come from the ceiling. You won't get hit.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Philip Nyman, and for my senior project at North Kingstown this year, I have decided to introduce the AVID program to the school board. First, before I can go on, I have to explain what is AVID. So, AVID stands for Advanced Via Independent Determination. It's a nonprofit organization that shifts to a more equitable, student-centered approach to cause the student to rely on the work and be more, be more excited about the work that they're going to do. And so AVID is a program that pushes students to be the best student they can be. So it's not a program like a AP, or it's not like an AP course. It's not a remediation course. It's a course that you take to be the best you can be. It's to push the BC student to become the A student. It's to help them be the best type of student they can. And it teaches students to. It's a program that teaches students academic survival skills to better prepare them for college-level rigor courses like time management, organization, questioning, and study skills. A lot of times in high school with lower-level courses, you don't really have to worry about these time management and all these type of skills because of the level of difficulty of the classes, but when you get into college-level courses, you're going to need that basis of learning. And another part of AVID is its professional development program. It's one of the best professional development programs in the U.S. It shows teachers how to bring students up to their level, bring students up to the teacher's level to have a more equal conversation. So it's not a sit and gather information type class, to a more collaborate and talk out the problems throughout the class instead of just sitting there and just gathering information just in one year and out the other. And just to prove that it's very successful, it's a program used by over 8,000 schools and over 2 million students. But what can AVID do for North Kingstown? 2 main things that AVID can do for North Kingstown is prepare the teachers at NK with more learning techniques. AVID is one of the best professional development programs in the country. It shows teachers how to motivate their students and make them excited about the work that they are doing. If students and teachers can both buy in to the learning, then they'll be more excited for the work that they're about to do, and they'll want to come to school and be in the class and talk more and not just sit through the motions of school. And also, the other part of what AVID can do is give an outlet to the underserved students in the need of college and career readiness. AVID program entails a college and career readiness course for students in search of help. It's a course you take your 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year with the same teachers, with the same teacher and the same students every year, building a family type class where you can collaborate and talk out your problems with all of your classes, with science, English, all of them. And students in lower level high school classes don't get enough preparation for college level courses, like I said earlier. With lower level courses, you don't have enough there's not a lot of challenge when it comes to tests and stuff like that, so you need to study more. The AVID program is not strictly a optional class, but if bought in by both teachers and students, it can be implemented through the whole school, and everybody in the school can benefit from what AVID has to offer. So the first aspect of college and career readiness, like the course I'm about to explain, the AVID elective course builds on 5 main strategies, Wicker strategies: writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. From these strategies that they're trying to show, we have teachings that they like tutorials, which are academic tutorials where a student will have a problem with a science question or a homework question or or a question on a test that they got wrong. They will pose the question and show a point of confusion on what part of the question that they got wrong, and a group of students around them will pose questions to initiate a thinking process that they can't think of in that time to build on that process more. And to break it down for each year, in ninth grade, we will each year throughout, you're building on tutorials, note-taking, special note-taking skills like Cornell notes and study skills and planner checks to keep you organized, because if you're organized, it's going to be very hard. And so ninth grade, you build on basic skills. You build on those basic skills, but mainly you're focusing on the transition from 8th to ninth grade, because coming from 8th to ninth grade is a very big transition, and if not guided correctly, you can go down a really very wrong path, and it's happened to many students. And in 10th grade, while still working on those main basics Wicker strategies, you start discovering your college. Start like college discovery. So how far you want to be away from your home in college, or co-ed, non-co-ed, religious, non-religious, what major would you be included with, and what college offered those type of majors that you're interested in. And 11th grade, actual college prep begins. You're going to start preparing for SAT or the SAT, and with practices and quizzes. And then by the end of the school year, you're going to have all of your college applications done and sent out to get you a kickstart for college preparation, because some students really need that kickstart and motivation to actually get it done. And then by 12th grade, it's mainly focusing on finishing up your college applications, but more on applying for scholarships and learning what college has to offer and preparing for life in college, because the majority of college dropouts are in the first year, and it prepares you for the first year of college. The other aspect was professional development. AVID's philosophy is that in order to help the students learn better, they must first show teachers other ways to teach. The AVID program philosophy is that in order to help the students, you must first show the teachers how to help the students better. And if you put emphasis on student and continue to motivate them, show them the skills, build on those skills, and create an environment where it's okay to fail and take ownership of the learning, they will become a more proactive learner throughout all classes. AVID professional development will show teachers how to make their students ask more questions, become excited for class, and actually want to be involved in the class. It helps pivot their approach from instructor to facilitator in the classroom. Using AVID strategies, they design learning opportunities that challenge students to think critically, ask questions, and collaborate and create solutions. But in order to show you what this really means for the students at NK, I created a survey and asked seniors at NK how they felt about college and career readiness in high school. They were asked 3 questions. Do you believe North Kingstown needs a college and career readiness course to better prepare students for the challenges of the life ahead of them after high school? 80% of the students agreed that North Kingstown needs a college and career readiness course. I also asked them, how prepared do you feel for life after high school? Do you know what you want to do and have enough skills to pursue it? 71% of the students felt that they are either barely prepared or not prepared enough for life after high school. I also asked them, how much guidance does the teachers at North Kingstown need in advocating for students and breaking down the professional barrier so class stigma changes from a sit and gather type class to a meet and communicate type class, where you actually feel involved in your classroom instead of going through the motions. 70% of the students said that North Kingstown needs more help in advocating for their students and breaking down that professional barrier. What I'm here to show you is that these students here at NK are crying for help when it comes to college and career readiness, as you can see from here. And Avid has so much to offer and help with all of the problems that all of these students have to have. Thank you so much for your time. Yes.
What made you pick this for your project?
So, oh yeah, I forgot to ask a question, I'm sorry. But I moved here my junior year from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I was in Avid my freshman and sophomore year, and I took the teachings that I gained in freshman and sophomore year and implemented them when I was here, and I saw how much growth and help I kind of had compared to other students. And when I would explain to them certain things that I would do in Avid class, they would say, "Oh, that seems so smart. Like I wish I could do that. I wish I could have that." And that's kind of what made me do this. So, any other questions?
What's the biggest impact as advocating for the student? Like, let's say you never had it, but the student that you gain from a class like this?
So, I would say that you kind of. Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
I'm just wondering, like, what would a student who doesn't have these skills, what is the biggest benefit that this would bring to them? What would be the most help to them?
It kind of helps the student that kind of has really no idea, like it's kind of just a part of the high school, but not really in the high school. Like if you're not if you're an athlete, you know what you're going to do for college. You obviously have an idea of what you're going to do for college. If you're extremely academically smart, like you're going to know like what you want to do. But with a student that has no idea what they're going to do and just has no clue what they're going to do, this class is perfect for them because it kind of gives them an outlet to see past just college, but life ahead after college also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Phil, very much for the presentation. So next, do you have any recognitions or anything, Mr. Waterman?
I do, thank you. First, I'd like to recognize the high school English department, their teachers, led by Michelle Neri, Assistant Principal for Teaching and Learning, Shivali Finkelstein, and Jody Clark, our Director of Curriculum. Last week, we learned that based on school data from the 2021 school year, North Kingstown High School's request to have our waiver to selecting a highly qualified curriculum was granted. So based off of our test scores from 2020-2021, the high school applied for a waiver so that we didn't have to pick a curriculum from RIDE, and that request was granted. We have 2 years now to select a high-quality curriculum as identified by RIDE, or to apply for this waiver again. So thank you to the English department, Mrs. Neri, Ms. Finkelstein, and Dr. Clark for their hard work. I have a number of recognitions from the art community I want to identify. First, congratulations to Carolyn Chamberlain, Cameron Alexander, and Isabella Skaggs for representing North Kingstown High School in this year's Wickford Art Association Scholarship Competition. I'm not done. It was just a pause. Carolyn won a scholarship in the amount of $500 for the 4 paintings she submitted and will have the opportunity to exhibit in this summer's Wickford Art Festival. In addition, Cameron Alexander and Isabella Skaggs both received honorable mentions. Also, Madison Torillo from the high school was selected to be Artsonia's 10th to 12th grade Artist of the Week for the week March 13 to March 19. During the contest, she received 849 votes from website visitors, and for being selected, she had her artwork highlighted on their website. She also received a special award plaque and $50. Also, art educator Robin Kasparian won Artsonia's annual Art Education Leadership Award for her demonstration of outstanding leadership and innovation within the art education community. This award honors 15 leaders in the art education community who will continually inspire their peers through their online school gallery on Artsonia. Artsonia will be officially announcing Robin's win on their website on Tuesday, April 19th, with a link to her public gallery. And she's here in the audience today, so stand up. That is it.
Actually, I have one also.
Yep.
So I guess this is a recognition and an announcement, actually, at the same time. So I found out on Friday afternoon, and I will make sure that it's attached to correspondence for your next meeting, that the chair of our building subcommittee, Jim Grundy, is going to be resigning from that position in that committee effective June 30th. I want to thank Jim for all of the dedication and the time that he's given to this district. Well before I started here, it's going on 15 years now for Jim as being the chair of the building subcommittee. But I know for the 10 years that I've worked here, there's never been a time that Jim has not given freely of his time to help the district have the best facilities that we can possibly have. Jim has a lot of knowledge in the trades, HVAC, general contracting. He's been a real asset to this district, and he is going to be a great loss on that committee. So I have notified the school committee. Again, I will make sure that that letter is attached to the next agenda. The building committee people also know, so we will be advertising for more committee members, and we will be discussing with the committee moving forward a new chair. Jim's going to be hard to replace as the chair of that committee.
Thank you. And I want to echo those sentiments from Mr. Grundy. For those of you who don't know, our building committee, it's filled with members of our town who volunteer their time. They receive no compensation and don't have to do what they do. They're all people with expertise in various building trades. They review our bids, our contracts, and our plans for facilities. In a way, I am not a contractor or builder or anything like that, and it's important to have those types of people willing to lend their knowledge to our district and help us out in areas that we're just not all experts in. And the number of times that subcommittee has looked at things and had alternate ideas or made finesses to different things that turned out to be either money saving or just a better way to go for our district, I can't count the ways. And Mr. Grundy has been such an active part of that committee for so long. His help, you can't really even state how much time and effort he's put into our school department and our town, and out of the goodness of his own heart. So we have to thank him very much for that. It's very appreciated. Next we have citizens' comments. I have only 3 who've signed up on the list. So the first would be Brian Odell. As always, we ask if you could please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Odell, 152 Salisbury Avenue, North Kingstown. Tonight, you'll be voting to renew the contracts of Barbara Morse, Chris Cobain, and others. To most, this would seem to be a no-brainer. Just a quick rubber stamp and let's move on. After all, the high school wins awards, the athletic team's championships, all is good, right? No, it is not. Investigations into the Aaron Thomas scandal are still not complete. We still have not seen the report from Judge McGurl, from the Rhode Island Attorney General, or the federal DOJ. Riot has also been asked to step in and scrutinize the school department's response to all of this. And of course, the accusations included in the Conlon lawsuit are still to be litigated. But it all seems to be quite damning as facts come to light and more students come forward. So, are new contracts for Dr. Morris and Mr. Cobain justified at this time? Consider this. In the Oliverio report, Dr. Morris said she had no idea that student fat testing was going on. She had no idea students had come forward with allegations. And she had no idea Dr. Arget had implemented new school policies for Mr. Thomas surrounding fat testing after students complained. In other words, she was oblivious. After all, she's just the principal, right? Why would she need to know about such trivial matters going on at her own school? But that's not all. The report also indicates she allowed Thomas to leave school property with some sort of white box, possibly containing school property and student records. In other words, evidence. And then, worst of all, she gave Monsignor Clark a positive professional reference for Thomas that stimulated them to move forward with hiring him. Unreal. And as far as Mr. Cobain goes, do any of you find it disturbing that he has now been associated with serious sexual misconduct issues at both North Kingstown and East Greenwich High Schools? The point is this. You're not obligated to give these educators new contracts at this time. You have other options for their employment as the Thomas case continues to play out. What we would like to see is a school committee that gives the community any sort of sign that it finally prioritizes student victims over administrators, unions, and contracts. Don't renew these contracts tonight.
Thank you. Next, we have Susanna Tingley.
Hi, Susanna Tingley, 750 Hatchery Road. Great job tonight. I have a senior, so I appreciate senior projects. I just want to speak to a few of the agenda items tonight. Tonight's agenda contains multiple policies to be deleted because they're redundant, but the specific policies that create the redundancy aren't listed. So I'm just questioning how you can remove the policies without seeing the policies that create the redundancy. You issued a resolution from Olivero's recommendation to urge the Rhode Island Interscholastic League to issue guidelines and offer training regarding appropriate testing protocols. And I'm just asking, why wait for the Rhode Island Interscholastic League? Can you draft your own protocols that will align with their standards instead of just waiting for them to act? In consideration of the Thomas case, I suggest the new surveillance policy include language that prevents any employee from using their own devices to record students, such as no camera will be installed or operated outside the system by an NKSD employee. As you're reviewing the policies, I suggest the addition of a parent's Bill of Rights that will restore trust and assure the parental role in education. Lastly, why are you going to approve the disposal of 151 library books, including classics by Steinbeck, Shelley, and Hemingway, yet books that contain depictions of pornography, gay, straight, or transgender remain in the library against formal complaints of parents? During a recent Senate hearing, several Rhode Island senators were shocked to see the pornographic images allowed in schools. They questioned how the images remain in schools, especially if the images can't pass through the firewall protection of the state's email. They also questioned why school committees and principals are allowing these pornographic images to remain in schools. Have you considered removing the books with pornographic images? Have you considered the importance of maintaining classic literature in the library? And lastly, have you considered options other than destroying the books, such as recycling programs for books, or contact the NK student who recently had a book drive as her senior project? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ramona Bessinger.
Hi, my name is Ramona Bessinger, 437 Davitt Avenue in Jamestown. I'm going to read the email that I sent to all of you because I didn't get a response, and it concerns the hiring of your superintendent. I'm sorry to, this is tedious for you, but the hiring of a superintendent, assistant superintendent, or any other administrator. It seems to be that all over the state of Rhode Island, superintendents are getting placed into positions in very sneaky fashion. It's not done. So I would like to make sure that the protocol is followed and that, Angelica Infante Green's buddy up there at RIDE is not going to be placed in the same way that we've seen superintendents put into positions in Cheraho and other districts. And secondly, I would like to speak to the fact that Jen Lima is openly advocating for the legitimizing of sex work. She believes that prostitution is something that should be a legitimate profession. We have students. You have an obligation as a school committee member to uphold a certain standard, Jen. And perhaps this is one area where you might want to dial it back a little bit. Advocating for sex work as real work, and that's a quote, is demeaning to women. Not only the women who have to do that sort of work, but the young women in our schools. So I want to just point that out and, suggest that at some point in time, Jen resign from this committee because of that post and multiple other political beliefs that she shares that I find offensive to children, young women, people of color, black children, brown children, white children, all children, okay? It's enough already with your political, bullying and your posts that are marginalizing and dividing the community.
Thank you. I believe I saw Mr. McGuinn sign up. I'm sorry? I saw you right on the paper, sir.
Jim McGuinn, 412 Chimney Rock. First of all, that was an excellent presentation. It really was. And I know what it's like as a student to get up there and speak in front of a crowd in the administration. And I think that the results of his surveys were very good as well, and hopefully input to the school committee. And I would say not only for college students, but for all students, because like the building committee, facilities committee, a lot of those people did not go to college on that committee, but they've been very successful in business. I am disappointed with responses from the interim superintendent when I asked for an APRA. Very simple. I won't go into it now, but put yourself in a bad position unnecessarily. And I don't know who's running the district, the lawyer or the interim superintendent, especially after the what I heard happened at the policy meeting today. My mother-in-law's got a saying, when you're in a hole, don't ask for a bigger shovel. Why are you pushing 3-year contracts for these two people? I mean, they're problematic, to say the least. They're called out now in two reports. Ms. King and the principal should have made sure that Mr. Thomas did not walk out with a box that no one looked into, or they should have made sure that the hard drive was accounted for. There are FERPA issues, amongst other things with that. That's not doing your duty. Plain and simple. You also have a principal of the middle school and elementary school that called for a reference. It says he got a reference with nothing negative that would have stopped him from hiring Mr. Thomas. 2 months after you received Mr. Oliverio's report. And you with these contracts, you let Mr. Thomas, Mr. Auger, Manseri, and apparently Manseri is still getting paid? Is that correct? Well, what I just got in 500 pages of ream of paper from Mary Ann Carroll, $9.90 from Providence, it would appear that she's still being paid. Maybe the reports haven't been updated, as the budget hasn't apparently either. But There's issues with both people, and now Mr. Cobain has 2 districts that he's got a problem with. And there could be a third incident, second incident in East Greenwich. That's been now, I think.
I have to ask you to please wrap up, sir.
Okay? You shouldn't be doing this. Only teachers are required to have contracts, and they're maxed out, I believe, at 3 years. There's no reason for administrators to
If you
have
could,
contracts.
Mr. McGuinn, if you could please wrap up. Thank you.
I will. Why can't they be at-will employees? Why can't you give them month-to-month contracts until these investigations are over? There's no reason.
Mr. McGuinn, your time's expired. Thank you. Thank you. So moving on to routine items for our executive session. We did not adjourn. We recessed our executive session this evening, so it is not completed. So I'm going to have to come back to the items under A1 and 2 at the conclusion of our executive session later this evening. Consent agenda. Do any members have any items they would like to exempt from the consent agenda?
Can I remove item E, personnel items?
Okay, item E. Any others? I need to exempt the executive session and business meeting minutes of March 22nd because I was not in attendance. Oh, no, sorry, wrong one. Sorry, my apologies. I withdraw that. I'm exempting C3. That's the meeting that I missed. Which meeting did I miss? The 22nd, right? That was the last full meeting. The 30th I was at. Okay, so I was right the first time. My apologies. C1 is N2 or what I'm exempting. Okay, so if I could have a motion to approve the non-exempted consent agenda items. The motion from Ms. Oh, sorry, another? Sorry. You weren't here for C3. Okay, so we'll exempt C1, 2, and 3. So if I could have a motion to approve the non-exempted consent agenda items. A motion from Ms. Lima. Second from Mr. Mather. All those in favor? Aye. So now we'll take the others. I think we can take C1 and 2 together. So if someone could make a motion to approve items C1 and 2. Motion from Ms. Lima.
Second.
Second from Mr. Mather. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will abstain from that vote. And now if I could have a motion to approve item C3. Motion from Ms. Lima. Second from Mr. Mather. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And an abstention from Ms. Hoskins. Thank you. First exempted item is E1. If we could have, we probably should start out with a motion of some kind, if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to, hold on a second.
So I'd suggest that if you have...
You're going to make a motion to approve all of the contracts as presented under E1, except for Mr. Cobain. So approve everybody else first.
If that's what your
Yes,
intent is.
Make a motion to approve all contracts except for Chris Cobain's.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
No.
Well, we're on the
just
everyone
make that
except
motion
right
first.
now.
Okay, sorry.
So
Vote on that one.
any discussion? So I'm going to mention a couple things. So there's a, yep. Well, we still have discussion. So, okay. So on the others, there's a lot of information that is said by people at the microphone, not all of which is accurate. And there are people who've been called out by people at citizens' comments on social media and things like that with information about what did happen with respect to various events that we've all watched unfold. And I'll tell you that not all of it is true. There's a lot of rumor. There's a lot of things that are misrepresented. A lot of fault put on people that you can't do anything with information that you do not have and that is not shared with you. I have a problem with some of the lack of sharing, which is, part of the reasons that there have been, some changes in what we see in front of us today. But I will approve the contracts that we've talked about so far. So just wanted to put that out there. There are particular rumors that I hear over and over and over again and statements that are simply not true. And it is what it is. With that said, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Do we have, Mr. Mather, do you want to make a motion with respect to the remaining contract, which would be Mr. Cobain's?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to amend Mr. Cobain's contract as written from a one-year contract to a two-year contract, which would be the normal contract. And can I...
So you should make a motion to, I think the best way to phrase it from what you just said would be a motion to approve the contract, but with a two-year term instead of a one-year term, if that's your intent.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the contract with a two-year term rather than a one-year term.
Okay. And a second from Ms. Hoskins. So any discussion?
Yes. I haven't seen substantiated concerns about Chris Cobain's job performance in the last 2 years. As a matter of fact, over the last 2 years, Chris Cobain has helped us pull through probably the two most difficult years North Kingstown has had, and probably two of the most difficult years the country has had in terms of education with COVID, and particularly as it impacted the sports at the school. Chris was hired about 6 months before the termination of Mr. Thomas, and since then has helped out and pulled the sports program through incredibly well, and I'd like to commend him for that. Having said that, and with the full understanding that there is still ongoing investigations, we still have the authority to terminate an employee for just cause, just like we always have and just like we always will. Whether or not this is a one-year contract or a two-year contract should make absolutely no difference in that. And to reassure that if there is just cause, we will do what we need to do, regardless of the length of a contract.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would just reiterate what...
Can you turn that mic on? Sorry, that one's not on there.
I would just reiterate what Mr. Mather said in that that Chris has pulled us through, Mr. Cobain has pulled us through a lot this last 2 years with the Coach Thomas instance with COVID. I understand there are ongoing investigations currently, but there has been nothing brought forth that we have been given substantial information to say that his involvement was anything but professional in what he did in following procedures in those instances. That being said, if something else came forward, we do have the right to move and act at that time. I think doing it prior to the what-ifs is not a way to put a contract out.
Thank you.
Personally, the only thing that we can act on is the information that we have. And to me, either non-renewing or renewing just a single one-year contract is action. That is taking action on information that we just don't have.
Thank you. Any other comments? And I'll chime in.
I just want to comment that I'm not able to support an extension for Mr. Cobain at this time. I've made my feelings on that subject to him, so I've had this conversation with him. I just want to state that with the current situation that we've experienced, I feel that that athletic director position needs to be revamped. Policies need to be rewritten before we do any contract extension. So, unfortunately, I can't support it right now.
Okay, thank you. And as for my piece, I want to echo some of the things that were said, and I disagree with some of the things that were said, but I've thought a lot about it as well. I have absolutely no issues with Mr. Cobain's job performance. He has, as Mr. Mather explained, been working on pulling an athletic department that has been rocked to its core by, frankly, a betrayal of one of its own, and is trying to support those people who are trying to do their jobs and provide for the best athletic performance and programs that our town can provide. And those programs are extraordinarily important to a huge portion of our students. Having said that, I do have concerns that there is we've all read the papers, something new that's coming up. We have all experienced, that the papers don't always get things right. They don't, folks, on both sides. I don't care what side of an issue you're on. If you read the paper, I'm sure you read it and you get angry once in a while. Journalists do the best that they can, but they don't always have all the information, and sometimes it's not all available to them, so you can't read everything you read in the paper. When we act here, we act upon information and evidence. We don't make decisions that destroy and impact people's lives until we have verifiable information that has been duly vetted and investigated before we make those kinds of decisions. And by saying that, I don't mean in any way to imply that I expect that anything will come in that area. I'm just saying it in general because, we've all been through quite a bit in the past year, those of us who have been, dealing with these kinds of issues. We act on things that are verifiable. We don't act on rumor. We don't act on Facebook posts. We don't act on somebody says that somebody says. We hire investigators. We do investigations, and we act upon those reports. That's what we have consistently done here. I know that there are many folks in the audience who don't agree with the speed at which things have happened, but I will hold that we need to do our jobs, and there are legal implications to the actions that we take. The decisions that we need to make need to stand up in court. And the type of posts and comments and he said, she said, talk about town doesn't stand up in court. And at this point, we still retain the right, as we do with every employee, upon a suitable investigation and facts, to terminate an employee for cause. And in the event that that's necessary, for anyone in this school department, we will do that. And so I agree that whether it's a 1 or a 2 year contract doesn't really change that. And the reality is for folks who say that we don't have to give people contracts, frankly, you're right. We don't have to give anyone a contract. We could put out a superintendent search right now and say, you are an at-will employee, you have no contract. We can say that every administrator in the North Kingstown School Department has no contract, and we will not have qualified administrators in the North Kingstown School Department because people won't take those jobs. And that is a reality, and it's understandable if you are that administrator. What is our protection against that? Our protection is our ability to terminate an employee for cause when we have that cause. And if that's necessary, we would do that. So I will support the motion that's on the table. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add? Okay, then we have a motion and a second on the table. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No from Ms. Lima. Motion passes 3-1. Next item on the agenda is a approval of the organizational chart. So I'll speak a little bit to this. So prior to our prior superintendent's resignation and the appointment of Mr. Waterman as an interim superintendent, a great deal of work has been done on our organizational chart. Mr. Waterman has done some additional work on it with respect to the athletic director, because we do all agree that there are changes that need to be made within our athletic department, and this reorganization includes some of those. And we anticipate that there will be additional changes to the comments Ms. Lima had made, that we are by no means done looking into how athletics are run in North Kingstown, what we can do better, and changes that we can make to provide, as much protection and ability to, find problems before they occur as we possibly can, and we're committed to doing that. One of the things that is in this is a reorganization with respect to the anticipated retirement of Mrs. King, who has announced that she's going to be leaving at the end of the academic year.
And I know somebody out there is going to feel really sorry to see you go, because he's going to have to find somebody else to pick on for all of the meetings coming up.
So we are going to be making some changes to the upper level administration. And I just want to mention that with respect to that, the idea, and we've discussed this with Mr. Waterman prior to his appointment as a Durham superintendent, the idea would be that the chief operating officer position would be offered to Mr. Waterman at the end of his interim superintendent term. So we would anticipate that would be one of the changes that we make. Just wanted to be upfront with that so that everyone understands, where that's going and, sort of quash any rumors or discussion regarding how that's going to work. So we'll be looking forward to that happening, and then we'll be continuing, as we've discussed, with a search for a superintendent, assistant superintendent, to fill in the other items on positions on that chart. So I need a motion to approve, first of all, item 5, which is the reorganizational chart. Motion from Mr. Mather, second from Ms. Lima. Any other discussion? Mrs. King, if you could just, no, you know what, I think we're good. All those in favor at this point? Aye. Any opposed? Then that passes unanimously. Next, we have approval of the extension to substitute staffing. If I could get a motion to approve item 5. I have a motion from Ms. Lima.
We have Mr. Lally here, too, also, if you have any questions on that.
And so, motion from Ms. Lima. Second was Mr. Mather, I think I saw. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So, Mr. Lally, do you want to just briefly just give a quick, there you are, sorry, quick overview of what we have in front of us, and then we'll take our vote?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So we're currently in year 3 of a 3-year contract with ESS. That's our agency that we work with for staff, substitute staffing. And I want to talk a little bit about why I'm just asking for a 1-year extension with that contract. Back in January, ESS had reached out to me and they had proposed a 3-year extension. At that time, I was a little uneasy with it for a couple of reasons. One was the fill rates that we had to start this school year, and I'll go into that a little more detail. But the fill rates to begin the year were very low. In addition to that, I had some concerns with communication with ESS. They had a representative that was assigned to our district that left their company back in June. It took some time to fill that position, so to start the year, they were sort of piecemealing it together, I would say. They did end up filling that position in October. The person that they filled it with resigned in December. So there was some staff turnover with ESS. I think that caused some communication issues. Specifically, I would hear from principals saying that, they used to reach out to the district rep. They'd get, immediate feedback. They'd sort of solve the issues. They weren't really seeing that. So at that time, I just wasn't real comfortable with the 3-year extension, and I let them know that. We had some meetings, and we talked about, looking at a 1-year extension. And I think what I'd ideally like to do is kind of look at the rest of this school year and into next school year to see, how the fill rates are shaking out and also the communication issues that I was concerned about. They've recently hired a new person in that role. I met with them last month. They seem to be doing great. They're very responsive anytime I reach out to them. And then in terms of the fill rates, just to give you some historical background on that, in the 1920 school year, we saw an overall fill rate for all positions in the district at 83%. That was obviously up until March of 2020 when we shut down. Between March and June, we didn't really need subs because we were distance learning at that point. The 2021 school year, we saw a fill rate across all positions in the district at 74%. I will throw the caveat in there that there was a different sub-model due to COVID. If you remember, we were really limiting the number of people coming into our school buildings for obvious reasons, and because of that, we were really utilizing just the building-based subs. We weren't necessarily, kind of picking up day-to-day daily subs like we have in the past and like we are this year. Fill rates this year, I've sort of broken them up so you can kind of see. September through December, we saw 60% fill rate, so again, a lot lower than the previous 2 years. And then the end of December, December 16th to the 31st, it was really only those last couple weeks we saw 45% fill rate. And then the month of January, across all positions, we saw 54% fill rate. So again, when they reached out to me in January, I wasn't too excited to move forward with a 3-year extension. I did have some concerns. 2 things I'd like to note. We did approve that pay increase for substitute teachers back in mid-December. And then we had a pay increase for all substitute positions in mid-January. And I'm really happy with the numbers that we've seen since then. I think those pay increases did make a difference in the subpool that we've been able to get. For the month of February, we had a fill rate across all positions in the district at 84%. The month of March, fill rate across the district at 86%, and I took the average of the first 8 working days that we've had this month, so April 1st through today, April 12th, and we're at 83% fill rate. So we're much better. We're looking back to the numbers that we saw in the 1920 school year, which I think I'd always like to see it sort of above that 80% threshold. So my thought is, like I said, continuing to look at the fill rate this year, continuing to sort of monitor how we're working with ESS, the communication pieces, and ideally, around this time next year, February, with like a full year under our belt of some good data to look at, possibly looking at a longer extension at that time. But
thank you very much.
My reasoning for the 1-year extension.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. For unfinished business, we have a resolution to the Rhode Island Interscholastic League regarding testing guidelines. I just want to make a point that this was a direct recommendation of Mr. Oliverio, and what his point was that as the governing body for interscholastic sports in Rhode Island, it would be important to have a uniform set of guidelines so that every district, not just North Kingstown, has policies that we can implement. And we felt that, and Mr. Alvaro, and I think the school committee agrees, that the Interscholastic League is uniquely positioned to do that on a statewide scale. So I appreciate the point that we need guidelines within North Kingstown, which we will continue to be implementing. But that doesn't change the fact that it's important enough that it's something that should be done statewide. And that's what the point of this resolution is to have them please take a look. And we hope that they will agree that this is something that should be looked at, not just in North Kingstown, but in every school district in the state of Rhode Island. So this has my full support. So I'll make a motion to approve item 5A1, 6A1, sorry, Roman numerals always tricked me up, so the resolution. And I have a second from Mr. Mather. Any further discussion? Ms. Hoskins?
I just want to say, I agree with what he said in the report and what you just said, Chairman. I just also would like to state that, just like they said in the public comments, that I do think that North Kingstown needs to be ahead of that and set our own policies and make sure that we are on the forefront of those policies.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Mrs. King, anything on 2021-22 school budget?
No.
2022-23 school budget?
Nope.
Okay. We have a bid award, item D1. Could you speak briefly to this? And then
Yes. So actually, I would like tonight to introduce you to our Director of Facilities, who is not so new anymore. He started at the end of October, but this was a good opportunity for him to come before you. This is Bob Correnti. Bob comes to us from Situate and a lot of other places, even though he looks like he's 25. So Bob is going to walk you through exactly what is going on with this bid.
Thank you.
From the bidding and the sourcing and the building committee meeting that was held last week.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody. So I'm here to recommend we move forward with the bid award for Phase 3 HVAC project at the high school. That Phase 3 would incorporate all HVAC on the first floor, and then the entire building would be fully HVAC, so AC in all spaces. We had a bid opening on April 4th at 11 a.m. All bidders were were all present. Also present were James Partridge, our architect, Dareth Elliston, also our architect, and Bob Gervasini, who's our OPM. He's our owner's project manager, and one of the clerks from my building was there as well. I, at this point, don't have a clerk, so we're working to correct that. We received all the bids, and we scanned all the bids in and sent them to James and Dareth to review all of the documentation throughout the package. In doing so, we scheduled a meeting on 4/6 to review the findings of their research. What was found was that the low and the high bidder in lack of furnishing all of the qualification statements hindered the team's ability to substantiate whether either could perform the project of this caliber, right? It's a large scale project with a very short window of opportunity to get it done. We have about 10 weeks. So in doing so, we recommended that we drop the high bidder and the low bidder due to the lack of that information. The qualification statement really talks truly to financial statements and performance on other projects, project-specific information. Have they done an HVAC project of this size? And so that's the reasoning behind that. Again, we met on 4/6 on a conference call or a Zoom call and reviewed through all of the documentation. And we have a HVAC bid evaluation document within the bid package. And so we went through and looked at every aspect of that to make this determination. And what we decided was the second lowest bidder was qualified, had all of the required documentation of the qualification statement. And so we'd like to move forward and recommend that we move forward with Martone Construction to perform this project.
And also, the building committee met right after the meeting that Bob had with Jim Partridge and went over, Mike Waterman was actually at that meeting. I was not in attendance, Bob was there, to go over everything that was presented. And I would like to remind everyone also that all of our big documents, even though Jim Partridge issued this one as a very large construction package, all of our bid documents specifically say that the North Kingstown School Department reserves the right to reject any or all proposals or parts thereof, to waive any formality in same or accept any proposal deemed to be in the best interest of the town. Being unable to assess the skills and the abilities of the low and the high bidder, because our projects are important. They're not strictly low bid projects that we accept, made it difficult because they did not complete all of the paperwork in the specifications. And the building committee was fully behind that decision.
Thank you both. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the award of the bid to the bidder that was recommended.
Martone Services.
Recommended by our facilities committee, which would be Martone Services. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Hoskins. Any other discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
While we're still on CIP, Mr. Waterman has an announcement to make.
Okay,
also.
thank you.
Yes, and I'm about to announce quite a bit of information, so I don't want anybody to sharpen their pencils. I'm going to preface it by saying we're going to create a web page dedicated to exactly what I'm going to talk about right now, and an email will be going out to all members of the community once that information is available. So for the past year, we've been engaged with an educational facility master planner. So now we have some save the dates of April 27th, April 28th, and May 23rd, all here at North Kingstown High School. We're going to have some community outreach programs. So please join us for these sessions for our educational facilities master plan process. During the process, we will do the following things. We're going to introduce you to the RIDE master planning process. We're going to ask you to complete a brief survey regarding your observations as they relate to our school building's strengths, challenges, and opportunities. Please complete the survey even if you are unable to participate in the public community sessions. We're going to review the educational suitability of our school buildings. We're going to review the enrollment analysis prepared as part of this planning process. We're going to discuss the operational costs of our school buildings. We're going to discuss the future development potential of our school buildings. And on April 27th, right here, we're going to focus our discussion on the building strengths, challenges, opportunities, and goals for our middle schools. So April 27th is going to be focused on our middle schools. The next day, on April 28th, we're going to do the same process. We're going to focus our discussions on building strengths, challenges, and opportunities, as well as goals for our elementary school buildings. So April 27th is middle school, the 28th is elementary, and then we're going to come back on May 23rd, where we will summarize the results of our engagements and seek feedback on the components of each community outreach meeting. And then we anticipate by the end of June, a final report with all this information and future recommendations will be submitted. On this webpage, we also have, I believe there's 4, 5, or 6, somewhere in that vicinity, videos that range in duration. I want to say they're about 10 minutes each on average.
Yeah, 15, 20, some of them, yeah.
So, and that's going to also outline the process. So we're going to put all this information on a web page. If you go to our page, it'll be under the departments tab, and then under the superintendent sub-tab, you're going to see a tab for educational facility master plan. That's what we'll call it.
And again, this plan is required by RIDE as part of our 5-year asset protection, our necessity of school construction. And this district's 5-year plan will be expiring as of June 2023. So we're right in the great time frame to get this done. And we also receive technical assistance funds from RIDE for this time to do that, to pay for it. We've been going through this for quite some time. You'll see in the timeline. Really started over the summer.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Waterman, can I just ask a quick question? What time will those meetings be for the
They're going to be in, I think we said 6:30, 7 o'clock. They'll be in the evening so that obviously the public can attend.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So we have a series of policies. Do we want to take them one at a time? It's up to the members. I mean, anyone have an objection to a particular one? If not, we could sort of treat it like the consent agenda and say if there's one you want to pull out, we will, or we could take them all at once. All right, so if there's not any particular one anyone wants to pull out, then I'd ask for a motion to approve E1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Motion from Mr. Mather. Do I have a second? I do need a second.
Second.
Oh, second from Ms. Hoskins. Okay. Any discussion?
Are we able to state what policies are being deleted that are redundant?
Sure. Well, I mean, maybe Ms. Carroll could speak a little bit to that, but I just I wanted to have my own comment on that, which is we are doing a comprehensive review of all of our policies. And our policy manual, if you have ever taken a look at it, is extremely long. And there are just a number of policies that have not been looked at in a very long time. And there are some that have been superseded by other policies, or state laws have changed, or things like that. So the deletion of a policy doesn't mean the policy's gone. It's just a matter of streamlining the process and trying to, if you've ever looked, the other thing is we've looked at, a lot of times, and this comes from, I believe, some prior work with respect to some model policies for school committees that these came from. And a lot of them, for example, will have a policy and then an administrative regulation in the implementation of the policy. And we found that it's not really necessary to have two policies that really talk about the same thing, so we've tried to sort of, pull those into each other and streamline the process, because it makes it easier for future school committees too. When we have as many policies as we do, it's easy to lose track of some of them, and we shouldn't have policies that we don't need or that we're not implementing. So that's a lot of it. But Ms. Carroll, I'll let you just sort of give a little bit of specifics just to help with that question.
Okay, so the policies that we're eliminating tonight are either redundant or they are no longer necessary. So let's look at 5 and 6. These are two special education policies that were enacted prior to the federal law being enacted that require us to have special education. So when we reviewed these at the policy committee meeting 2 meetings ago, we realized that there was no longer a need to have these policies since we're required by law. When we looked at a lot of the administrative regulation policies in organization, a lot of this is in our policy handbook. Or, for example, some of these policies were written as far back as 1955. So when we look at a policy that's old, we see if there are aspects of that policy in other policies, and if so, or in a handbook, then we delete the policies. So that's why we're deleting 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. At the next meeting, you'll see some more policies that we worked on today that we'll be deleting, because if it's unnecessary, it's already in another policy, we no longer have a need for that policy.
And as Attorney Carroll mentioned, some of these policies with respect to personnel are contained within the employment handbook that's given to all of the employees and that they're all bound by. So they don't necessarily have to be a separate policy when they're within the employee handbook.
And the committee also thought it would be a good idea. So as we're reviewing policies, even if there are no changes recommended, we are going to put on the bottom of the policy a note, because we're suspecting that some of these policies were looked at since 1955, but probably there were no changes. But we are going to do that, and we're going to also have a report or correspondence to the school committee that says, in addition to the policies we're asking for changes, we did review ABC policies and did not recommend any changes. So that way we can have a note on them.
Reviewed, just a reviewed note.
1902 would not be the last time that we looked at a couple of policies.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So new business is just for discussion only. With respect to the Jamestown contract, Attorney Carroll, you're probably the best to speak to this as well.
So again, we got a request from Jamestown. They would like to begin negotiations for a new contract. However, keep in mind that in order to negotiate for the next year, it has to be decided before November. So this would be negotiated not for the 22-23 school year, but for the 23-24 school year. So it's on the agenda tonight just for your information. There's the letter that was sent by the superintendent in Jamestown, and I suggest that at the next meeting you put it under old business and you possibly appoint 2 people from the committee to be on a negotiating committee so that we can start negotiating for 23-24.
Thank you. And Mrs. Schott, as a Jamestown representative, I just want to make the note that that is our plan, that we'll appoint 2 members of our school committee. I believe you've already appointed 2 on yours. We look forward to having a collaborative discussion about, moving forward. You've raised some legitimate concerns that we're absolutely willing to talk about, and I hope the relationship and the discussions go well. I think we can have a great conversation and come to an agreement. All right, sounds good. Next, with respect to reports, any questions on the personnel report? And I'm going to make a note on the disposal report, just because a couple comments tonight from some people who've left before the end of the meeting. I understand the narrative and the discussion that and the way that you're trying to frame it. And I'm speaking to some people who aren't here, but they were. And I understand the point you're trying to make, but the reality is that the works of literature that are being mentioned as being removed from the library, they're not being removed from the library. Every library will go through their circulation and their catalog and find books that there are newer versions of that have not been checked out in a very long time, and that maybe it's the ripped up, written in copy, while we have others. So a couple great works of literature that were mentioned this evening. This doesn't mean those books aren't in our library anymore. It just means that a copy of that book is no longer in the library anymore. So I just wanted to make that point. There's no approval necessary for this disposal, but yep. And Ms. Lima, sure.
And just to piggyback onto that, this has been happening for a very long time. We actually have a policy that covers this. It's listed in all the school committee agendas. You can go back a year and see it about every quarter. Not only do we dispose of books, we also dispose of equipment. And as to the comment that was raised about why don't we donate them, I actually did approach the administration about that, because there are schools in our state that don't have libraries, but the books are not in a condition to be used. They are completely unusable. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you very much. So with that, we've reached the end of the agenda. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion, Mr. Matt. Whoop, sorry. I take it back. Habit. Sorry. We are not going to adjourn. We are going to, breaks. Thank you. Habit. You get to the end, you want to go home. We don't get to go home yet. So I need to have a motion to reconvene our executive session. And we did this in our call to order, but I'll do it again. We called an executive session earlier and had a vote, but do we need to vote on it again, or do we No. All right, so we've already done our vote, but just so folks know, we did it at 6 o'clock. We're going to reconvene our executive session for purposes of, and I'm going to just state the general laws, 42-46-5A1, 42-46-5A2, 46-45A4, and 42-46-5A2, which was done earlier today. So the public portion of the meeting will reconvene at the end of the executive session, at which point we would do our 2 items that we put off for later, which would be to seal executive session minutes and disclose any votes that might be taken in the executive session. So we're going to recess again to executive session. Thank you, folks, for coming. If you want to stick around till the end, it's not very exciting, but we will come back and do those 2 items. hear it? Okay, got it. Sorry, folks. Okay, so we have concluded our executive session, reached the end of our agenda, so I need to have a motion to adjourn. Oh, right. Oh, gosh, why am I so sorry? My apologies, folks. So, you're right. We can't motion to adjourn yet. We got to back up. Backing up to our agenda, I need a motion to seal the executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022. Motion from Ms. Lima, second from Ms. Hoskins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And I can disclose that no votes were taken in this evening's executive session. Now we have reached the end of our agenda, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn. A motion from Ms. Hoskins, second Mr. Mather. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.